Good morning to all of you. My essay will talk about the transdisciplinary approach to the overtourism in Venice and the consequences related to the emergence of the virus COVID-19. My name is Gonzalo, and during this presentation, I hope to clarify this problematic, which is really important nowadays, especially since the virus has impacted so many lives and so many fields of commerce, culture, economy, among others. The concepts I will talk about will be the notion of touristification, passing through overtourism, going to the case study that is Venice, and talking about the pre-COVID and post-COVID scenarios, finalizing with the talk about how this situation is an opportunity to change the tourism industry in the future. So, touristification is a phenomenon that happens in a certain location when it becomes attractive enough for outsiders to visit, starting a chain reaction on what can be the change of a certain place. Some changes can include social or cultural or economic factors, which can be, for example, renting prices, daily costs like in supermarkets, and on the other hand, even degradation or loss of certain sites of landscapes. Overtourism. This is another term for an old issue, especially related to the over quantities of visitors in a particular place that can bring bad consequences on a local area. While the term is generally new, it occurs in metropolitan areas, harming the quality of life of the locals and even tourists that can visit the city, can increase congestion and privatization of public spaces, and decrease the buying power between the locals and newcomers, among other issues, of course. For these mentioned reasons and the other ones, we can realize how much of an impact the over-tourism phenomenon can have in a city when it occurs. And of course, the people involved. This is an example of Piazza San Marco in Venice and the number of tourists that exceed the maximum capacity of the square, turning her in a place that is not enjoyable. And if it was more empty, it would be, yeah. As you saw before, by the picture, my case of study for this essay debates Venice as a focal point. Being one of the most famous travelers' destinations, we can find around 60,000 visitors a day, possessing unique characteristics. Venice, as an island city, is facing problems like the sense of belonging to the people who live there, and the traffic of people, which makes moving around so difficult even for tourists. There are increase of taxes and inflations in several local businesses that can include transport, food, culture, etc. We can see, as I mentioned, degradation or loss of the Venetian identity, and this is emerging more and more because of the massive inflow that the city has by receiving all these tourists in the city. The travel industry is able to monopolize and exploit these factors also because of the availability of the services that include the low-cost airlines that make travel so easy even for lower-class families, the sharing options such as cars and accommodation like couch surfing, and the increased options and interest in cruise tourism as well, which is related to water specifically. That makes Venice very appealing. And we can also talk about the amount of offer concerning renting houses or hotels or even hostels with apps like booking.com or Airbnb that make traveling very affordable and easy for everyone. The pre-COVID scenario, adding to all of the things that I said before, is not favorable for sure. Reaching maximum capacity, especially during the summer months, we can see the culture being diluted more and more to reach the outsider's satisfaction in an environment that is not Italian nor Venetian, and it's almost completely dependent on outsiders to survive when you look at in an economical point of view. Disregarding also the fact that the unique culture and character is one of the most attractive things about the place from an ethnographical point of view. These are some of the problems that the city is facing, basically. Like I said, having an economy so dependent on foreigners, the travel industry is currently passing through a really, really hard, difficult time to maintain the stability and survival of the community living there with the emergence of the COVID-19 virus. So now I'll talk about the effects of the virus, COVID-19. And as I was introducing before, this so-called monster has revealed what we can acknowledge as an impact in the daily lives of the Venetian and tourists, as well as the maintenance of their previous lifestyles. So all of this is at stake, and we can talk about how gondoliers only needed to work in the summer months, have to work now during the winter as well, with extra hours and lower fees, for example. Even when I was there before and now, the head price for the trip would be €8, 80 euros, and now they just charge 10 euros. Another example would be restaurants following the same strategy by creating menus that include more dishes at reduced prices so they can stay open. Even local artisans like the famous glass of Murano, increasing their production, being such a small company at lower costs, so they can sell at least a few of their own designs. And like this, we have many other local commerce businesses that are at risk and are taking similar measures, all because they are so dependable on tourists to earn their money, to earn their daily income, which becomes clearly a problem. As I said before, this is an example of a picture that I took in 2014 in the Piazza San Marco, and you can all see how much people the piazza has. And versus, this was mid-August, versus now the trip that I made during this Erasmus experience in March, where we can see the square that is so empty, that it's almost so rare, and it's an achievement by itself. It's amazing the difference between these almost two cities in a way. As for the future opportunities, we can rely on the vaccination to bring things back to normal, and that is why we should ask ourselves if that is the right way to do things. In my opinion, the COVID came as a chance also to improve. I mean, it's obviously a bad thing, but we can look at it as a chance to improve a previous broken system. This is experiences and manage more efficiently the city without compromising its culture, economy, identity, well-being of the locals and also the visitors, the tourists. We can rely on several tools to make this future a reality, which must be done as a group effort, joining different fields of knowledge to prevent previous target problems. So the ones I mentioned before, plus others that we can exploit, and by doing research, we can find there are not only those, but much more. One of the ways we can analyze this problematic is through questionnaires, because no one better than the locals, the ones who live and work in the city, to detect specific problem that the city has. So the opinion of the Venetians and this point of view is very, very important. Some of the examples for this questionnaire as questions would be living in the city center or outside of Venice, so we can have a base point. Note the gender, age, profession. What is the experience and difference in living and working in a city during the summer months and winter months? So look at how easy it is to move around the city, the tourists impact this factor, which obviously they would say yes, I think. How comfortable is the city to live in a scale of 1 to 10? Justify, if possible, of course. Do you think Venice is losing its own identity, its own values, its own characteristics? What are things that make Venice so unique that deserve preserving? What do you think are the positive aspects of receiving tourists in the city? What are the negative impacts as well? What would you see yourself forced? Would you see yourself forced to move if things don't change, if things go straight back to how they were before, or even if the COVID persists? So these are many of the example questions, and in the essay I managed to compile 20 that I think are the most important, and the ones I think will lead to better and more efficient ways of solving these problems in the city of Venice. So I think my time is up. I want to extend myself. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you enjoy knowing more about this problematic as much as I did. Thank you.